Hi everyone, I'm Mallory and I'm a yoga teacher, and for today's video I'm going to do a run through of my own personal practice, specifically how I like to warm up my shoulders, my legs, back, and hips. So this is my personal practice. Everyone will have a different one, but this is my opinion on the best way to warm up my own body, so you can really take it for how it can be applied to your own practice. It's what I found over the years has really worked for me and what I like the most. I still really encourage everyone to attend classes and to, have a relationship with a teacher where you can have someone advising you and making sure that you're doing things in proper alignment and everything like that. But this is a really nice way to supplement maybe your own personal home practice. So let's get right to it. So the first thing that I really like to do is take downward facing dog and just sort of explore the experience in the shape of downward facing dog. And this will really be great for warming up the back and the shoulders, as well as the legs, of course. Not so much the hips when I'm doing this pose. So I'm just going to bend one knee and then the other. A lot of times in classes that I teach, I'll notice that some people will go really fast to do it. I personally like going slow. So I'll stay here, bending my left knee, and sending my belly towards my right thigh as much as I can. When you're in downward facing dog, it's an upside down V shape essentially. So you always want to keep your hips up and back. If your shoulders are really tight, it might look a little something more like this, in which case you bend your knees a little bit more and send the hips back. That's what you always want to bear in mind, is hips up and back. Now, if you're really tight in your legs, you might have to bend a lot because your heels are going to be nowhere near the ground. If you're able to just do one and then the other, that's great. Just going one and then the other. And then eventually, maybe send the hips back and then both at the same time, just bouncing, if that feels comfortable. And I'm just looking towards the camera, but always keep your head in between the shoulders. Now, from here, I'm really concentrating on dropping my head in between the arms to get a big stretch through the entire back, really engaging the shoulders as well. So I would do that for a while. I could be in that shape for a few minutes. Obviously, if you're just starting out, you might be working on just 10 breaths at a time and building from there. So a way that I really like to open up my shoulders specifically, and it will also really complement downward facing dog, is by using two blocks. So I have two yoga blocks here, and I've mentioned in other videos I've got them on Amazon. And they're cork blocks, but you can use foam blocks, anything that you have or like. And so I'm going to stack them like this, and they're horizontally facing me. I'm going to take my elbows and bring them on top of the blocks so that each elbow is around the width of the block. And then I'm going to send my hips back. My hands are touching like in a prayer, and I'm dropping my forehead towards the top of the block. So from here, if you're really feeling tight, you can have your knees in a little bit closer. And if you feel you can open up a little bit more, you can send the hips a little bit further back and just drop the head here. This really opens up the lats, which can get very, very tight, especially if you're a person that sits at a desk and types during the day. And just relax here for a moment. This honestly is a very intense stretch for me. I can't be here forever. I would like to be able to, but I just haven't reached that point yet. I just have to work on concentrating on my breath and then coming out of it when I need to. And then I just come out of it nice and slow like that. And then you can do downward facing dog again and see if that helped to open up your shoulders a little bit more. And then still again with the bouncing, doing what feels right. You'll notice that even though my belly is not on my thighs here, I'm still sending my torso towards my legs, right? So another way that I really like to open up the backs of the legs in downward facing dog is by taking one foot and bringing it over the other so that my pinky toes are touching, and then just being in the stretch here. You'll feel a really, really intense stretch in the back of your calf. And just be here. So my pinky toes are touching, my right ankle is on top of my left. Can be here for about 10 breaths at a time. And switch sides. And then come right out of it. This will bring me to my next pose that I practice every single day, child's pose. You're going to open your knees wide, sit your hips to your heels, and relax the head all the way down. And breathe. So you can also take other variations of child's pose. You can weave your hands through to your feet. Bring one ear to the floor or the other. Be there. You can also just let your arms rest on the side. It's a really nice way to stretch the low back as well as the hips. So, speaking of the hips, my favorite way to stretch the hips first is to get into knees to chest. So I'm going to start by just laying down on the floor and just hugging my knees in. Rocking from side to side. It's a big stretch for the front of the hips. This is my nice dog. So you'll feel a nice pull. Some people might be a little less flexible here, so they might just be looking like this. It depends on what level of flexibility you are for that moment. You can do one leg at a time. But I just kind of like hanging out like this, really pulling the knees in. When I first started practicing yoga, I remember when I was around like 16 or 17 years old, when the yoga teacher said, pull your knees into your chest, I remember thinking, wow, this is so hard. I can't wait for a day when it's easy. And, you know, that this pose might look so basic. You're just pulling your knees to your chest. But it took years and years and years for me to finally say, okay, I can pull my knees to my chest, but not every day does it feel easy. Today it just happens to feel pretty easy. So after I've done that for a while, I like to come into a squat as well. It's just a pose that I really like to do to open up the hips. So I like to start off standing in my squat, open up my feet around hip width. You'll notice that my feet are a little bit splayed out. For some people it might be a lot more, and the more you work on it, you can bring your feet more to straighten, but just a sort of straightish, open up the feet. From here, bend your knees, start to sit low, so that you're having this nice sitting motion. Now, for some people, it might be that you need to have a block underneath, and that's fine, just sitting tall on the block, and bring your hands in between, and have your elbows opening up your knees. So a lot of people here, I see misalignment in yoga classes where their hands are here. Really pay attention. Draw the hands down. Open up the shoulders. Have that nice long spine. You can also have two blocks if you're particularly tight, which is great. You can just sit down on top of both. And again, nice long spine. So just for my demonstration, I'm going to not use the blocks and show you how I get a little bit deeper into the stretch for people that are more well acquainted with a squat. So I like to sort of sway from side to side, really opening up the hips more than they would open otherwise, sort of using the leverage of my hands. This will really help to open up the groin, almost feeling like you can get them totally at 180 degrees. Then, after doing this for a while, and again, I always like to use the measurement of first doing 10 breaths. That's just my own opinion. I like to go a little bit further by opening up my legs a little bit more, sort of like a frog. And I'll do this from a side shape. So I'm going to lift my hips a little bit, keep my legs open, sort of like a frog, and then hinge forward, keep my spine long, send my arms in front of me, and fold. This is a deep groin stretch, so don't freak out when you're in it and run away. Try to be there for a while and breathe. I'm feeling this intensely. This is not easy. So take a deep breath in, then a deep breath out. And then when you're ready, walk the hands back, lift the hips, straighten the legs, turn your toes in towards each other and your heels out. Bring your hands to the floor, inhale, look forward. Exhale, fold, and then we're coming back to that nice leg stretch here to open up the legs. And I just like to be here going from side to side. I could be in this stretch for a long time just exploring it because my legs get very tight, and sometimes it looks like this and that's it for the day. And just be here, making sure that the spine always stays long. Avoid this, right? Always come here. It also feels nice to bring the hands up, look forward, come to a flat spine, and then exhale, fold. Breathe in, and breathe out. And then start to come out of it. So, I also really like to use cat-cow in my everyday practice. I do cat-cow every day, more than once a day. I demoed cat-cow in an earlier video, but just a quick demonstration, just for the purpose of this video, just a few rounds. I like to be in this pose as long as feels right. Sometimes I just like to stay in cat, and open up the shoulders that way. Another stretch I like to do here is tuck my toes, bring my head down, hold on to my heels, and come into rabbit. This really helps to open up my shoulders. And then coming out of it, you take child's pose. And then slowly start to come up. So that was sort of a quick run through of my own personal practice. I would say that if you were to work on this every single day, maybe even twice a day, you could start to see improvement in 2 weeks of a little bit more openness in the shoulders, hips, and legs, and back. So feel free to comment on anything that you're doing in your practice that you think could help me or help other people that are practicing yoga and want to explore more. And definitely leave me suggestions for other videos that you would like to see. So, thank you so much for watching. Namaste.